What's up, guys? So we are sharing a very, very special car with you guys today, but it's not just a special car. We're gonna share a dear friend of ours. Look who it is. Tim, Mr. Shmee himself.
Hello.
Is here. And really, I think it was super important because we haven't shared this. I think today was the first day we posted on social media. So no one has seen this car. It's been covered, imagine. So what a day to be sharing it with you guys. This is arguably the best Miura SV in the world. And the reason for that is that it's never been restored. It's 10,000 original miles, original paint, and original interior.
Well, can I just say what a privilege it is to be here with you, revealing this car. I've been lucky enough to drive a Miura once, not an SV, I must add. And I think the history behind the car and what it represents and what it means for the brand, even to today. And we're looking at one of, if not the most special examples. I mean, it's best for you with the details, but it's stunning, absolutely stunning.
Well, it's cool. It's cool you mentioned that, what it means for the brand today, because what's interesting is that when Lamborghini was launching Polo Storico, they actually sent photographers from Italy to photograph some of the details of this car to show the originality. And you'll see things like, you know, these little tape marks where they painted things by hand. You'll see the cracking on the hood, and you'll see these little details throughout the car that's just how, as an expert, you can tell it's original paint. Another big thing is that the windshield's never been out, and you can see it's the original rubber, the original glass, the original in warranty sticker.
Yes. That's fantastic. From new.
So it's like all these little details with this car that make it so special. Listen, anybody with a checkbook can go buy a restored car or go restore a barn find, but to find something that someone truly loved for this many years, I mean, this car was a commitment for these owners. You know, preservation's a commitment, and even these details. I don't know if you see it on your side, but you know, where the black paint was hand painted over the fins on the door, and all of these little things, and look in the interior. I mean, it looks and smells like 1973 or 74. Essentially a new car. The patina's incredible. It's a holy grail for us.
I mean, I'm just standing here trying to take it in. Everything on a simple level, from the color scheme, the red with the gold. I think it's running the new tires, but you even have the original tires for it as well, right?
Yes. So,
everything.
So the original tires were tube type, so they actually had tubes in them, and that's how you can tell they're original. Now that's also pretty dangerous because these were magnesium wheels with a tube. so after like 1972, 1973, they did away with those tires, but sitting there are the original tires that were on the car, and it shows. Listen, even though it did, I mean, very low, 10,000 miles, they weren't abused. And I mean, listen, I could go on and on for days, but you see it, you can just sense it was definitely well loved. So again, there's a few dents and like some scratches, and we wanted to leave everything. There's a few little details that we need to do, but we're talking like there's a sticker on the engine bay that we found a new old stock one, so we'll change that. And it even has in the trunk still its original tools, its original books, all the records. I mean,
this is cool. What's the story behind these?
So this is more of an emotional thing, I think, with this car. This is a collection of old models from the 60s and 70s that the last owner, before he could purchase the car, I believed he purchased it in 2001, he collected those, and he felt it was only right that they went with the car when he sold it. So, I mean...
Yeah, that's incredible.
So cool. So cool. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. We're going to have a ton more content on this car. It's a holy grail for us. Thank you so much, Tim, for joining us.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Don't worry, we have much more coming. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you guys again. So huge thank you to Tim for helping us introduce this car. You know, we've had so many incredible cars come through Curated. I mean, one-off show cars and you know, historical cars. But it's so interesting because this car has really taken me back in the sense of it's not every day you find a 50-year-old Lamborghini or Lamborghini Miura, even Lamborghini Countach, that's been preserved with low miles. But to further add to that, it's definitely not every day you find the flagship of the Miura and the flagship of the Lamborghini model with low miles in this level of preservation. And you know, Lamborghini produced in period between 71 and 72, a few cars in 73, 150 Miura SVs. Of those examples, I mean, you could say that 70, 80% have seen a very hard life. Accident history, you know, maybe fully restored many years ago, a myriad of things, or just high mileage or shoved away. So many of the incredibly restored Miuras you see today have had color changes. They've had all these different things over the period of years. And I would say maybe 50% of Miura SVs have been restored. Now, the other cars that are still out there that still exist, you know, if they've been discovered original, there's been a few cars that have been discovered as original cars. They needed to be repainted. They had, you know, maybe a bump in the rear or, you know, different things. So to find a car that wasn't shoved away in a barn, to find a car that was also serviced, to find a Miura SV with low miles, with original paint, with original interior is unheard of. This is not just any curated car. You could almost say this car represents exactly what our DNA is. So there's a lot of excitement around this car, and I thought it was cool to have Tim sort of introduce it to everybody. But one of the coolest things about this car is that it came with a stack of records. Now, I would say most Lamborghini owners in the 70s, 80s did not keep their records. They didn't care. You know, playboys, rock stars, whatever, they were not keeping this type of stuff. So we've got an incredible file that actually includes the original purchase agreement from Achille Motors, who was a Lamborghini dealer in Italy, to Mr. Cordon Mark Johnson of New York, dated 1972. All of the original shipping documents accompany Zeus Ambrosetti out of, I think, Milan, where they shipped the car to New York. Even original letters of exchanges of conversation, incredible. And then a full service history from the 80s, 84, 82, 87, up until 2001, where basically the original owner had serviced the car, he had maintained the car. Now, I think the most interesting part of this car as well was an inspection report from 2001. Now, the inspection report is from a gentleman by the name of Robert DeMars. Robert was a dear family friend. We knew him for years. Actually, my first ride in a roof Yellowbird was one of Robert's personal cars many, many years ago. And what I love about this car is Robert talks about, now, it was owned by a famous Ferrari collector for 1 year in 2001 before it went to the last owner, the gentleman we purchased it from. And, you know, Robert talks about original paint. He talks about original 16,000 kilometers. But this is what, and I'll read you this passage, a beauty of a survivor and surprisingly original. This very rare Miura SV split sump model is the rarest of the rare with extremely low miles. Healthy, and it's red. Showing careful preservation of a car can be original just once in its lifetime. This outstanding time capsule original is surely of one of the finest to survive. Now, this was in 2001, where there was probably a few original cars still left in decent condition. Remarkably, there's some incredible old period photos as part of this, and I think that describes exactly what this car is. We've gone around the car now with a paint meter. We've measured all the panels. You know, I talked about with Tim about some of the details, but to find some of those details, to find a car, there's three small areas of spot work that are like this big. To find a car that's been preserved that nicely, I don't think we will again. I inspected a beautifully preserved Miura a few years ago in London. A dear friend of mine owned that car. I believe he has since sold it. It actually won second place in its class at Pebble Beach Concours in preservation. I would put this car up against that car any day of the week. And really, it's a testament to its final owner, I would say, knowing what he had the day he bought it and then saying, I'm not really going to drive it. Now, there is a cute story. He did realize before, I would say after purchasing it, that he was a little too tall. So that's one of the reasons he didn't drive it. But what I think is so incredible is that if any of you are major, follow major concours events or whatever, that Paul Russell and Company is probably one of the best restorers in the world. They've done, Pebble Beach winning Gull Wings and all these incredible cars. Well, for about, I would say, let's say 4 years, a period of 3 to 4 years, and that we're measuring this now, there's about a quarter-inch thick, maybe a half-inch thick records from Paul Russell and Company, who just did, you could almost call it a mechanical servicing. They touched up a few things and in the engine compartments, but imagine they left everything untouched. And I think what's most exciting to me is that this gentleman who we purchased the car from had the insight and had the passion in 2001, 2002, 2003 to say, wait, we're going to leave this car the way it is, but we're going to service everything, and we're going to not just bring it to anyone, we're going to bring it to probably the best in the world to do these things. So to find a car like this, obviously I would love to keep this car. I cannot afford it. It's way beyond my means today. I know many of our followers talk about, my dad's rich, he has a Miura SV. And yes, my dad did purchase a Miura SV new that he still owns to this day. But he's not a rich guy by any means. That's his, that's his net worth is that car and his parts and, whatnot. So obviously we can't keep the car. But we're excited. We're going to be doing, submitting it for Polo Historical certification, and we're going to be refining a few details. It's pretty cool. So one of the details is there's a distributor cover that goes over the distributor. And that cover is supposed to have a plaque, and those plaques actually would go bad. It's like a stickerish type plaque that has maybe a sheen to it. And over the years, listen, water or fuel, anything gets on it during a service, the plaque's gone. So I'm like, I gotta get one of these original badges to really perfect this car. And there's a few other details that we want to perfect. We're hoping to show it with the next caretaker at Pebble Beach or wherever we show it. And remarkably, my dad I called him, and he had an original new old stock distributor cover with the badge perfectly beautiful. So that we're gonna change. There's a few other little details. I think the carburetors were refinished in a color. Paul Russell did a beautiful job. The color's a little too dark. I mean, if you really know what those carburetors looked like new, they were like a green goldish cast. So we're gonna try to perfect the color of the carburetors. Again, very minor details. The spark plug wires should be Cavus, like the original wires. They're red, which is correct. They're just a different brand. But really minor details. Again, we're talking about bringing the car to, the next level and then going through the rest of the car. And we're looking at all the paperwork. And anytime we get any historical car like this, there's so much to look at. Listen, Miura SVs have body stamp numbers all over. So you have body stamp numbers on the doors, the rear trunk latch, on the top of the front hood and the top of the rear hood and throughout the rest of the car. Every body stamp number is perfect. It's just, it's beautifully imprinted. Sometimes when someone would have painted a car, obviously an extra layer of paint makes the body stamp number not as prominent. The other thing about the car that is so impressive is that it has the original factory cloth seat inserts. I don't think you could ever duplicate the color, the feeling of that material again. And it is, you could call it almost a 9 out of 10 or a 9.5 out of 10. The material is perfect. The steering wheel is perfect, and they're normally, chewed up or discolored. The door panels, the dash, all the carpets are original. The switches in the car, they all have a patina that, some old cars that haven't been preserved correctly, they have, patina that's, okay, questionable.
This is like a beautiful patina that almost looks new. And this is, this doesn't just stop at switches and gauges and lights. This extends throughout the entire car. Things like rubber around the windshield, the chrome around the windshield, the rear tail lights. It is absolutely shocking that these things were preserved so nicely. And whether it was, I would say maybe the first owner didn't realize how well he preserved it. I think definitely Stan Sikorsky knew what he had. The last owner definitely knew what he had. And then when you're looking at things, so we know from older records that the wheels were repainted. If you know Miura wheels, they're magnesium, and the factory ever never cleared the wheels. So they'd just paint them gold, and they would actually turn colors over time. So they would get very dark brown. So at some point in like 98, I think 99, they repainted the wheels gold and they repainted the rockers, which is very common. But what's remarkable is that the paint has never been touched. There's 3 areas of spot work, which we had talked about, but it's virtually every panel meters perfectly. Every panel meters consistently with a hand-painted car from that period. And when you look at the body, there are a few little dents and a couple little scratches, but those are things you almost have to leave. It almost tells the story of this spectacular car to see the body so straight, to see the line so perfect. I mean, even when people have restored perfect Miuras today, and sometimes you look at the lines and you're like, okay, that's not quite perfect. This is never touched. The lines are perfect. So things like that were actually hand painted, like the bumpers and different accents of black on the car, you can actually see the original paintbrush marks. I mean, this is mind-blowing stuff. So we're definitely going to share more about this car. It's a piece of our DNA now. I'm going to miss it. I know it'll sell very quickly, but listen, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for all your support, and continue watching because we have much more on this incredible time capsule Miura.